Hey everyone, and welcome back to Ontario Cryptids. I hope you all are doing fine. As you're hearing this episode, I'm vacationing for the next 2 weeks. No need to worry, as I have pre-scheduled my uploads for when I'm away. One thing I would like to add is that my uploads might be a tad shorter than normal due to the fact that I have to cram in 3 weeks of recordings and shorts. So I hope that's okay. Let's get started. If you have an encounter story that you would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story with like-minded people. Today, I have 5 stories to share with you all. Now sit back and relax as we begin with today's encounters. I went to bed early one weekend as my husband was playing a new game and was nowhere near as sleepy as I was. I woke up with a full bladder in the middle of the night. Fudge, what time is it? I asked myself with one eye open. The clock on the nightstand reads 3:32 a.m. I tippy-toe to the bathroom so I don't wake up my husband, quietly and as quickly as possible with my eyes still closed. I do my business and wash my hands before returning to bed. I climb in and get comfortable. Without saying a word, I feel my husband's cold feet intertwine with mine like he usually does, since I get easily hot if I'm not touched anywhere else while I'm trying to sleep. Within minutes, I'm fast asleep again. In the morning, I wake up at 6 a.m., alone in bed. I went downstairs looking for my husband and find him playing video games in the same position as he was the night before. Me, did you have difficulty sleeping last night? Him, barely paying attention. I haven't tried yet. Me, confused. So you just came upstairs last night to make sure I fell asleep again? Him, also confused. What do you mean? I haven't gone up yet. Me, so whose cold feet did I feel last night if it's not yours? Me and him, blank stares at each other. This next one takes place September 4th of 1993. We're going to be heading to Greenlee County, Arizona, and the nearest town is Alpine. I was archery deer hunting in September of 1993 when I had a visual encounter with this creature. Around 7 a.m., I was slowly stalking down a hiking trail in a heavily wooded area when I began to feel extremely uneasy and almost unnerved. I had the intense feeling that I was being watched or followed. There were no other people in the area other than my hunting companions, and they were not in this general vicinity. I kept moving along the trail literally one step at a time, all the while anxiously looking around for the source of my uneasiness. After about 25 minutes, I was standing on the trail just looking behind me when I saw this creature walking rapidly down the same trail towards me. I watched it walk closer and closer for about 6 to 8 seconds. It seemed like minutes. Then when we were about 70 to 80 yards apart, it turned 90 degrees from the trail and disappeared over a ridge. I followed it to the top of the ridge to try and get another look at it, but when I heard a sound that can only be described as a cross between a grunt and a throat clearing, I decided I had enough and left the area. I returned to the area 6 weeks later to novicely investigate and came across what I can best determine to be a possible bed. The following year, while hunting the same area, I came across an abandoned shelter that had no human signs as far as being built or utilized. This next one takes place in the spring of 1976. We're going to Butte County, California, and the area is Lake Oroville. I once came within 25 feet of a Sasquatch deep in McCabe's Cove on Lake Oroville, California. It was the spring of 1976, and I was fishing along the shore. The water level was up pretty high onto the brush, so I had to hike around several dense areas. As I was making my way around some thick brush, I was focused on the ground in front of me and testing the grass with my fishing rod because I was nervous about rattlesnakes. I came into a small clearing where the heavy brush began to give way to small tan oaks and larger trees, and there I happened to look up to get my bearings before going further. It took me a couple of seconds to process what I was seeing. Standing in front of me at about 10 o'clock, I saw a large hairy creature standing as still as a statue. I guess it was about 7 feet tall, very heavy set, with somewhat sloping shoulders. I sensed immediately that it was hiding among the backdrops of the forest, waiting for me to pass unaware. As soon as it realized that I saw it, the creature bolted upright, turned, and ran through the dense forest. I was in shock and awe. My heart was racing. I quickly ran to where the beast had been standing. Looking around, I could see several distinct tracks, and in the direction where it ran, it had blasted a hole right through the forest. At the time, I didn't think about trying to gather evidence. I was pretty frightened, and my adrenaline was high, so I ran a quarter of a mile up the steep hillside to the road and then back to where I parked. Later, I researched some old news clippings at the Oroville Library and discovered that there had been other sightings in the region going back to the 1940s. In particular, a case on Table Mountain where an entire family was frightened away from their homestead. In 1976, the area where I saw the Sasquatch connected to a much larger section of a very remote and dense forest of maybe 100 or so square miles. I don't know what the lay of the land is these days, but I've often thought about going back there on a backpacking adventure. This is going to be the last encounter of the day. This one takes place on November 7th of 1981. We're going to be heading to Apache County, Arizona, and the nearest town is Cove. It was my first day of the 1981 Navajo deer season. I have hunted these Lukachuka mountains for deer through my teenage years with my brother T, Uncle DJ, and cousins. I was 23 years old then. It was about 7 a.m. on November 7th of 1981 when our hunting crew reached top of the mountain, southwest of Cove, Arizona. The weather was cold with shifting fog. The ground was frozen from the drizzle the night before. My two cousins and I were to walk the upper mountain ridge that arced to the northwest. I packed my day bag and loaded my rifle. By then, my cousins had already walked ahead of me on a well-used trail which rounded a hill to a saddle which splits the mountain range. I wanted to catch up with them, so instead of following the trail, I climbed up the hill and over. As I reached the top and began to go down the other side, I stopped and yelled my cousins' names to locate them. I first heard crashing of oak brush below me 40 to 50 yards to my left. I could not believe what I was seeing, walking down the hill on two legs. The oak brush was about armpit high on the thing. By then, the smell had reached me, which was musky, wet, smelly hair, undescribable scent. I was shocked. The thought of shooting it came to mind as I watched it through my rifle scope, but it walked similar to a human. I did not shoot. I watched it walk down to the big trail below, about 70 to 80 yards, and into the forest. I then hurriedly made my way down to the north, towards the forest road we came up on, and I stayed on the road back to the meeting area to the northwest of the ridge. I think it followed, because of the movements I could hear in the oak brush while walking on the road. I shot once to scare whatever was moving in the oak brush. What I saw was a very large black hairy being that walked upright on two legs. The upper body was broad and muscular. The hair appeared coarse. The smell was bad. I can only say what I saw that day was a Bigfoot. As it walked down, it tried to look towards me, but didn't turn enough for me to see the face. The oak brush was 2 or 3 feet above my head. I'm 5'10". I hope you all enjoyed these stories today. Some of them were pretty wild. Again, I hope you all don't mind the length of these episodes lately, but I have been cramming these in preparation of my vacation. If these stories reminded you of an encounter that you may have had and would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story on this channel. Thank you all for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. Please hit the like button on your way out and smash that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Have a great weekend, and I hope to see you all next week right here on Ontario Cryptids.